Today, we're really getting into something quite transformative: how artificial intelligence is changing risk management. We're looking specifically at Granite AI.
It really is a big shift. Risk management is moving from just being a compliance task,
Yeah.
towards something more like genuine strategic foresight.
Yeah.
And AI is, well, it's powering that.
Exactly. So our mission today really is to cut through the hype and show you what this actually looks like on the ground. We want to answer 4 key things about this tech.
Okay.
First, how does it help people identify and prioritize risks more accurately? That's number 1.
Right.
Second, where do we see the big efficiency gains, in the analysis and reporting side of things?
Yeah, the heavy lifting.
Third, how does it actually support those big high-stakes decisions with real data-driven insights?
Crucial point.
And finally, the 4th one, how does it free up experts' time by, simplifying those routine, often quite boring tasks?
Okay, makes sense. But before we even touch on features, we absolutely have to establish the core idea here, because it's all about trust.
Right.
Granite AI is built strictly as an assistant. It's there to help people, doesn't replace the expert, and it's definitely not some kind of autopilot.
So the human is always in charge.
Always. The user makes the final call. And this is really important. Every single change, every suggestion that gets accepted, it's traceable. That transparency is baked right into the governance.
Traceability, okay. That's huge, especially when you think about the kind of sensitive data we're dealing with in risk management.
Definitely.
Which brings us straight to that first big hurdle for any AI adoption: security and data governance. You call this setup a private AI. What does that actually mean for the listener who's worried about their data leaking out?
It means a secure bubble, basically. We use Microsoft's Azure AI Foundry services. Now, the key thing here, technically speaking, is we didn't build our own proprietary AI model from scratch. Instead, we're tapping into the power of these huge existing language models, but crucially, within a dedicated, hardened environment provided by Azure.
So you get the smarts of the big models, but you've built like a secure vault for your data to interact with them. What's the trade-off there? Why is that isolation so vital?
Well, the trade-off can sometimes be cost or maybe a bit more complexity in the setup. But for us, the security advantages just completely outweigh that.
Makes sense.
And the vital part is the geographical boundary. All the data processing stays strictly within the EU ETA area. That's the European Economic Area.
Ah, okay.
This guarantees that the data falls under strict EU data protection rules, no matter where the actual customer is based.
That tackles a massive worry right there. People are, frankly, terrified their internal chats or analyses might accidentally train the next version of some public AI.
And they're right to be concerned. It's a valid fear. So we have concrete assurances. Customer data is never used to train those underlying language models, period. Never. And what's more, the conversations you have with the AI, the analyses it generates for you, none of that is saved. It doesn't hang around in the history after your session ends.
It's like it vanishes.
Think of it like an air gap. The
Okay.
data goes in, interacts with the model, gets you the suggestion or analysis, and then pulls back entirely into the secure Granite application. Nothing lingers outside.
And as a final safety net, is this just switched on for everyone by default, or do companies get to control who uses it?
Oh, control is essential. Firstly, the feature has to be specifically activated for each customer. It's not on by default.
Opt-in, basically.
Exactly. And then, within that company, access can be tightly controlled by user roles. You can even restrict it so the AI can only see or interact with certain fields in your risk forms.
So very granular control.
Absolutely. The whole point of this private approach is to stamp out that huge risk. Users getting frustrated and copying sensitive risk details out of Granite and pasting them into ChatGPT or some other public tool. We keep it all safely inside.
Okay, that foundation of trust is clear. Let's move on to how it helps the individual user. This hits our first focus point: accuracy. Say I'm just a regular employee, not a risk specialist, and I need to log a risk. How does the AI actually make my input better?
It jumps in right when you might feel a bit stuck, or maybe your description is just too vague. You type something like risk of losing a key person.
Yeah, pretty common one.
Right. The AI then acts like a lightweight guide. It immediately starts enriching that. It might ask clarifying questions or suggest potential mitigation steps specific to losing key staff, or highlight causes or consequences you hadn't even thought of.
So it's almost like it's challenging the user a bit, pushing them to think deeper about what they just wrote.
Exactly that. It spars with them. in a helpful way. Even if you start with just a very basic description, the AI can offer improvements for different fields on the form, suggest relevant tags, maybe even point towards existing controls that might apply.
So it raises the quality baseline for everyone's input, not just the experts.
That's the idea. Obviously, the analysis it provides is richer if there's already good data in the system, but even a novice user ends up with a much clearer, more useful risk description than they might have managed alone.
But going back to that core principle, the human decides, what does that actually look like in practice? Does the AI just fill everything in if you let it?
No, absolutely not. And this is critical for accountability. There is no magic, complete risk with AI button.
Okay.
The user has to actively manually copy the suggestions they like, maybe tweak them, and then integrate them into the risk description or mitigation fields before they hit save.
So there's a definite manual step involved.
Yes, and that manual step is what ensures the audit trail clearly shows a human made the final decision. It records who was responsible. We absolutely don't want AI-generated risks that look perfect on paper but have no real thought or practical action behind them.
Right. You want real risk management, not just ticking boxes faster.
Precisely. The goal is always to drive concrete, human-led action.
Okay, that makes sense for individual risks. But let's zoom out now. What about looking at the whole portfolio? Analyzing risks across entire departments or maybe filtered sets of risks. This brings us to focus area 2, efficiency gains. Where does the AI really speed things up here?
This is where you see a leap, honestly. It's about recognizing patterns across potentially thousands of risks, something a human just can't realistically do. The language model is brilliant at spotting qualitative patterns.
Like what kind of patterns?
Well, for instance, it can easily detect biases in assessments. If one particular manager consistently rates every single risk in their unit as, say, low probability, high impact, the AI flags that. It calls out the potential bias.
So it acts like an impartial observer, pointing out those human tendencies that can skew the overall picture.
Exactly. And it's incredibly good at identifying overlapping risks, even when they're described differently.
The classic problem. Unit A calls it database failure. Unit B calls it core system downtime.
But it's fundamentally the same underlying vulnerability, right? The language model understands the meaning behind the words and recognizes they're talking about the same thing.
That must save so much time.
It does. This consolidation allows for a much, much deeper analysis of your core shared vulnerabilities at an organizational level.
So it could potentially kill off those painful quarterly meetings where risk managers spend hours just trying to agree on terminology to figure out the actual top risks.
That's a huge part of the efficiency game, yes. Instead of just printing out a massive spreadsheet or a simple top 10 list, the AI can compile narrative summaries.
Narrative summaries, how does that work?
It reads through related audits, incidents, or risk assessments across the whole organization, or within a specific scope you define. Then it writes a summary highlighting the recurring themes, suggesting potential root causes, pointing towards systemic actions needed, and even identifying areas where your data coverage looks a bit weak.
Wow. So you move beyond just listing risks to understanding the story behind them. It helps answer those tougher questions like, why does this operational problem keep happening even though we have controls?
That's exactly it. It gets you to the why much faster. And if we link this back to our fourth focus point, freeing up expert time, this is where the return on investment really shines.
Right, the time-saving aspect.
When the AI handles all that routine grouping, summarizing, and basic enrichment, your highly skilled, often highly paid risk experts are freed from that data janitor work.
They're not just cleaning up messy data anymore.
No. They can shift their focus to the really high-value stuff. Designing better controls, engaging with stakeholders across the business, running simulations and exercises, strategic work.
Oh my, that leads perfectly into the strategic side. Focus area 3, supporting those high-level decisions. How are senior management teams actually using this to guide strategy with better insights?
One really powerful application is in scenario planning. Strategic working groups, maybe senior leadership, can test out alternative future scenarios.
Like what kind of scenarios?
Like, say, what if we expanded to 3 new international markets? Or what if we merge with competitor X? They can take that future vision and compare it against the existing consolidated risk register.
And ask the AI.
They can literally ask the AI, how prepared are we from a risk perspective for this specific future?
Wow. So instead of needing a 6-month consultancy project to figure that out,
You get a rapid assessment, The AI quickly pinpoints the gaps, identifies where existing controls might be insufficient, highlights ownership issues, or flags timelines that suddenly look unrealistic given the new strategy.
That sounds like it could change the speed of strategic planning significantly.
It can compress weeks, maybe months of manual cross-referencing and analysis into days, or even hours in some cases. That's the difference between reactive course correction and genuine strategic foresight.
And I imagine the same kind of logic applies to regulatory compliance. That's another huge time drain. We're seeing lots of new rules like NIS2 in Europe.
Absolutely. NIS2, the EU's updated cybersecurity directive, for anyone unfamiliar, is a great example. Compliance mapping is typically a very laborious manual task.
Painfully slow.
Right. So if a new framework like NIS2 comes along, the AI can benchmark your current risk data, your identified threats, your existing controls directly against those new legal requirements.
And it tells you where you stand.
Instantly.
Yeah.
It shows you the coverage gaps. Here's what you've already addressed. Here's where you need new risks logged, new controls implemented, or follow-up actions assigned. It helps prevent that awful situation where you think you're compliant but actually have major gaps.
That's incredibly valuable. Now, you also mentioned earlier that AI acting as a kind of neutral party, taking politics out of internal comparisons.
Yes, and that's a subtle but really important feature. The AI is by its nature completely neutral. It's like an external expert reviewer, but always available.
So it can compare different departments objectively.
It can compare the risk posture, the status of actions, the progress being made between, say, the IT department and the HR department, and give you an objective analysis of effectiveness or bottlenecks.
Without any departmental bias.
Exactly. And critically, it can flag things like individuals who might be silently overloaded with too many risk responsibilities or areas where deadlines are consistently slipping. It delivers that feedback based purely on the data, which can sometimes be politically tricky for a human risk manager to raise directly.
Oh, okay. That really wraps up the picture nicely. We've walked through how Granite AI operates at different levels. It seems to hit all 4 of our mission points. Boosting accuracy with that guided analysis,
Right.
Improving efficiency at the portfolio level with those smart summaries,
Right.
supporting strategic decisions through scenario planning and compliance mapping,
Yes.
and ultimately saving valuable expert time by automating those routine data tasks. It really does seem to shorten that path from messy data to confident, actionable decisions.
It absolutely does provide that powerful, well-trained second pair of eyes. It brings a certain rhythm and structure to the whole risk process that was often missing. But there's a final thought, maybe a challenge we need to leave you with.
Okay.
We have to acknowledge that this increased efficiency, this ease of use, it can sometimes create a bit of a paradox of accountability.
How so?
If creating content, filling forms, generating reports becomes too easy, too frictionless, there's a potential risk. People might start confusing a really polished, great-looking risk register with genuine, effective risk management actually happening on the ground.
Mistaking the map for the territory, essentially.
Exactly. Confusing good data representation with real-world impact. The AI provides the structure, it sets the pace, it highlights the issues, but at the end of the day, human action, practical steps taken by people in the organization, that's the only thing that actually reduces or eliminates risk.
So the efficiency gains need to fuel action, not just better reports.
Precisely. You, the listener, need to ensure that these powerful tools lead to genuine improvements in organizational resilience, not just prettier dashboards. That's the crucial human element that no AI, however smart, can ever replace. People still have to do the work. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.